Welcome back to Coffee Talk with Mel, coming from the Coffee Grinder in Warwick. Today's episode is episode number 4, Real Estate Horror Stories Part 2. I have a special guest today, Nicole Connell. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so excited to be here today.
And Nicole is another real estate professional with RE/MAX Results. She has done a few different jobs within the real estate industry, and she is a real estate expert for a whole decade now, Nicole.
Yes,
you don't look like old enough to be in the industry for a decade.
I am.
So I am really excited to really just delve into this. So let's start with you with a story of a real estate horror story. What's the one that instantly comes to mind?
The one that instantly comes to mind, and the one that literally still haunts me to this day. And it's not like it's like a haunting thing. It's actually more, I feel completely terrible about the situation because there's just unfortunately nothing that I could do, and I tried my best. But so I had this sweet couple. They were just getting married. They bought a house in North Providence, this cute little home. First time home buyers. They were just, planting their grounds, planting their feet there. And the transaction went very smooth. We did the home inspection, appraisal went well. Everything in the transaction couldn't have gone smoother. Closed. They moved in. Couple days later, they go on their honeymoon. So probably like a week or so goes by while they're on the honeymoon, and I get a call from the listing agent's office because they were trying to get in touch with the current owners of the home because the neighbor calls to say that their house is currently underwater.
No.
Underwater. Like completely
like
underwater.
The water is just in the house, like.
The water was, yes, completely in the house. The whole backyard was flooded. So the house was a very unique type of property because like the living area was more or less like in the basement. It was on like a slab, and it was in kind of like a hole. So it was known
so
to
it was
flood.
lower than other areas.
It was lower, yes. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't in a flood zone though, so they didn't have any flood insurance on the property, unfortunately. So I rushed there when I find this out because I know that they're out of the country and I don't want to ruin their honeymoon to tell them that the house that they just purchased a week ago may be completely ruined.
Oh my gosh.
I go there. I almost cried for them.
I was going to say, you probably started crying.
I looked inside and I saw the water line. It was past the windows. The backyard was still flooded. It was a huge pool. And the water inside was past the kitchen cabinets, like the second kitchen cabinets.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. It was probably starting to seep out the windows.
Yep.
Wow.
It was like something I've never seen of before. And unfortunately.
Something out of a movie.
Literally.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad calling them on their honeymoon to tell them about their home.
Now that's some bad luck.
It is. Absolutely. And unfortunately, I knew they had pets too. So I wanted to make sure that the pets were in the house. So I'm freaking out. So I'm like, I have to call them. I can't just wait until they come back because God forbid their pets are in there. So I call them, and then, obviously they were extremely upset about the situation. And this has been going on for a year now, and we're still going back and forth, and I'm still trying to help them through the process of trying just to get rid of it at this point.
Oh, trying to resell it.
Yeah.
Wow. So were they able to go against their homeowner's insurance to get the money, or no, because it was groundwater?
Because it was groundwater and they didn't have flood insurance. Home insurance would not do anything. They tried to go through FEMA. They wouldn't give them enough money to even cover. Like, I want to tell you, it's hundreds of that. Like, the house needs to be completely taken down and rebuilt. And it's unfortunately nothing that they can afford to do.
Sad. So they might actually have to walk away from it.
They're going to, yeah. We're going to try to potentially do a short sale.
Okay, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so we're going to try.
If you need a negotiator, I got a great contact. Just saying.
Perfect. Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do now. But yeah, there's such a sweet
So did you
couple.
make the phone call to them while they were on their honeymoon?
Sure did.
So this is an example of a real estate agent going above and beyond after closing. So let's just give Nicole a round of applause.
Oh, thank you.
For going above and beyond for your clients. I mean, I've had some pretty crazy stories. That one is definitely crazy. Yeah. But it does bring me to a story that I have. Do you remember I think it was 2010, the 100-year flood?
Yep.
Everybody remembers.
Everyone remembers that. Oh, yeah.
Flood because the Warwick Mall.
I know. And I used to work there, actually. So I remember
I did too.
Did you?
Of course we did. How funny. Where did you work?
Justice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I worked at Baker's Shoe Store.
Okay.
That's how old I am. You're welcome for that. Yes, that was my one retail bout, and never again. Never again for retail.
I don't think I can go into retail ever again.
I mean, anything like to deal with the customers was just so terrible.
I know.
People used to return shoes that they wore. I said, you paid $5 for these shoes. You clearly wore them. Like, you can't return them. But people are crazy like that.
Oh, yeah.
But getting back to the 100-year flood, I'll never forget, I got a phone call from one of the kids I went to high school with, and he owned a 2-family on a river street. And it was the same thing. The Patuxent River just completely overflowed. It was past the windows on the first floor. Oh. I mean, it was so bad. He ended up having to gut the whole thing. Couldn't get anyone in there, and then we ended up short selling it too.
So you're in the same situation.
I feel as though that's happened more than once. Yeah. And he wasn't required to have flood insurance.
No.
And especially seeing what's going on in today's market too, with the hurricanes down south, I think it's advisable for people to look into riders. Flood insurance riders.
I think so, yeah.
A lot of times people don't realize that they are available, and you can actually add that to your homeowner's insurance policy. It's going to be $500 a year depending on where you are.
Right.
But even if you're not required to,
it's still a good additive to have just in case, for that extra precaution, because of
especially
how much
in the ocean state.
Right? Especially, but we've been getting so much rain past this year.
Yep.
It's absolutely
it's
insane.
unprecedented.
I know. I feel like everybody I've talked to has gotten water in their basement.
100%.
I did.
You did?
I did, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Water in my
you
basement.
must have been like,
it wasn't like terrible, but like water was coming in. We stopped it before like it got worse. But I mean, yeah.
You're lucky.
Yeah.
And it's going to bring me to one more story, and then I'll let you do story number 2. Is I'll never forget. I was showing this couple a house in Cohasset, and I love Cohasset. You know, they have some really beautiful homes, and this one house, I think I remember it was an elongated ranch or an L-shaped ranch, right? So we walked through the house, and we're like, okay, these room sizes are really nice, and the kitchen was updated, and we're kind of feeling the house.
Yeah.
Right? And so the agent had given me the lockbox because they couldn't be there for whatever reason. So I went in through the lockbox, and I'm like, okay, I was like, getting excited because I was like, this might be the house. I opened the door to the basement, and I was like, go right ahead. And they take one step down. There was water to about like the 3rd step in the basement. Now I said, okay. I said, we're going to leave. I had to make the phone call to the listing agent. I was like,
oh no.
Hi, Mr. Mrs. Listing Agent. I just want to let you know there's 4 feet of water in the basement on this listing right now. They had no idea. Oh. The sellers had been living there for about 10 years, had never had water in the basement before. My guess is that a sump pump stopped working. That's my guess, because obviously in the state of Rhode Island, a lot of families have sump pumps and so on and so forth. But we were not expecting that. And needless to say, they did not buy the house.
No, I wouldn't assume so. I'd probably just walk in, look, I'm not going to take this one. On to the next.
On to the next. So give us another horror story that you can think of.
I have, so this is a good one. This actually just, it can go back to like realtor safety and how negligent I am about, that portion of the class that we learned. So this was when I first started. It was probably like I was in real estate for probably like a year, and I got a Zillow lead. And so, we're always meeting just random people at random houses and
we don't know,
and just going on in and meeting them and having no idea who they are or what their intentions are. So I meet this Zillow lead. We're talking. I met him before this encounter, but I met him first, and he was just like, he's this big dude. He's kind of scary looking or whatever. And I'm just like, okay, well, I'm not going to judge a book by its cover. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Next time you will.
Yeah, next time I will, right? No. Well, so there's a twist. So he wanted to go look at a house, obviously, like a couple days later. So it was like in the wintertime. So obviously it gets dark here around 4:30.
Very early.
So, and he worked till 5. So we had to go look at this house at 5:30. So it's pitch black out.
Which 5:30 is not too late.
No, it's not.
I understand. I know. I always say do it in light.
Yeah, exactly. But plus, obviously just for the buyer's purposes of seeing the property and light.
Of course. Yeah.
But for our safety too.
Yeah.
So anyways, we go to this house, and I was supposed to meet the realtor there. Realtor unfortunately couldn't make it. So he she gives me the garage code to go in.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, whatever. So we go in. It's an older home, and so I feel like sometimes the older homes, if they're not updating with lighting, they're very dull and dim inside. So there's
1,000%.
So instead of, obviously it's already dark out, but now it's also dark inside because the lights aren't really working properly. So we walk inside and we're looking at the first floor, and like we're not really speaking. I'm just like, oh, look at this, look at that. Then we go into the basement. What do? I walk on down first.
No, that's the
Sure do.
number one rule, Nicole. You always
know.
let the clients go first.
Always, but
Number
for
one
some
rule.
reason, right out my brain, I was like, no, going down the stairs. I like got down to like halfway, and I was like, oh no, I'm doing everything wrong now. I was like, I'm in trouble. So, and like, I just got like this weird feeling in my stomach too. Like after I went down first, and he's like obviously a bigger dude too. So I was like, okay.
I mean, imagine if he fell, he could hurt you.
Well, yeah, even that. Exactly. So we get down there, and downstairs obviously is very dark as well. It's all wood paneling, and there's 2 rooms. One's literally just like a cinder block, and the other one is a wood shop, and then there's no other exit. And he's standing at the stairs. I'm in the middle of the basement. And that's when he starts to communicate. And like we're talking. And I feel like, okay, I can't even concentrate on what he's saying to me right now.
Because you're
all I'm thinking
aware of
about,
the situation.
I'm aware of that I just put myself in a terrible situation. And I could easily just be thrown into one of these rooms because the property is vacant and no one will ever find me. He's in a perfect situation to just kidnap me. So I couldn't even like listen to anything he was saying. But the twist is that he actually ended up being a very sweet guy. I still talk to him this day. I mean, I was trusting my gut and thinking that something was wrong, but luckily nothing was, because we walked on back upstairs and I was, I'm here, so I'm alive.
Yeah, you're alive.
Yep. Still
You weren't
kicking.
kidnapped.
Yes, I wasn't kidnapped, but he ended up buying a beautiful home in Lincoln, and he's literally the nicest person I've ever met, and I still talk to him this day.
And I'm sure he sent you referrals because, other people were probably scared of his appearance or, and you kind of went out on a limb.
Oh, yeah.
But a moral of this story is, for any new agents out there, you always let the buyer walk down the stairs first in front of you, no matter what. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, because that way you don't have to worry about it. And you should always have mace, or I think there's that new thing, birdie or something that you can, as an alarm.
Yeah, the alarm.
It's just you'd rather be safe.
No, exactly. Absolutely.
There's been times where I've asked people to come with me. I had this commercial building in West Warwick. I remember I was like, can you come with me? I don't know these people. I've never met them. And then of course, I'm a tall girl, right?
Yeah.
So of course I hop out of the car and the 2 men hop out. They're like 5'2". I can take them. I'm good. I can 100% take them. But in my mind, I was going after hours. It was dark, and the commercial building was just really, really, really big.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that I was safe. That was a little overkill.
Yeah.
But I do want to bring that into this conversation, is no matter what you do, just make sure you are always safe. If you don't feel comfortable, your life and your safety is more important than the commission check. So we're gonna just throw that out there.
If you're not here, you're not getting that commission check.
100%. And as you talk about older houses like that, there's so many that don't have the recessed lighting.
Right.
So sometimes it's hard when you go into these houses and you're pressing all of the buttons and you can't get any of the lights to work. So another note, it's always a good idea to have a flashlight.
Yes, that's true.
1,000%. I usually always have a flashlight in my car along with a measuring tape.
Yep.
Because you never know when somebody wants to measure a room.
All the time.
Or
all the time, especially during inspections. It's like that's their time to measure things.
That is their time to measure things. And then, people are always like, oh, I want to make sure my furniture fits in the house. It's like, don't buy a house based on your furniture.
No, buy new furniture.
Can I just say that out loud? Focus on the house itself, the location, the structure. Not if your bedroom furniture is going to fit, because guess what? You can buy new furniture.
Right.
But people get so hung up on that. It's absolutely crazy.
It's wild. Yeah.
So I'm going to tell a horror story about a septic.
Ooh, love this one.
So I'll never forget, I was the 3rd realtor in. It came in as a referral. Mm-hmm. So when you're the 3rd realtor in, it's already been on the market with 2 other real estate agents.
Yes.
And didn't sell. So you know that there's going to be a little bit of difficulty. But I said, you know what? Whenever it comes in as a referral, I go, I speak to them, and usually we're on the same page. And typically the reason why houses don't sell is either because of the price, the price, or the price.
Yes. 100% agree with all three of those.
Just the price. So I was able to talk to this couple. And upon my first meeting, I go over there and I sit down with the husband and wife. And, they were like, yeah, we're on board. So I was having the wife look over the docs. And then the husband's like, oh, come outside and see like the huge garage I built. And I said, sure, no problem. And this was a smaller adult male. I mean, I was probably in my early 30s at the time, and he was probably late 50s. Okay, just to kind of give you an idea. So we go out, and I mean, he had built this really, really cool garage. I mean, you could fit a boat in it. It was huge garage doors, so it was really cool. So we get out there, and he's like, so, can I take you to dinner? I was like, no.
No, thank you.
Absolutely not. And your wife's inside. Oh, we're getting a divorce. I go,
no.
There is absolutely, this is never going to happen. So I can walk away now, or we can go back inside and talk to your wife. So we went back inside and we talked to the wife, right? So the wife was like, yes, we are getting divorced. And she's like, I would like you to help me buy a condo. And I was like, of course I will. No problem. So me and the wife, we actually got on really, really, really well together, as I do with women, I think.
Yeah.
I tend to think that.
Absolutely.
So I find her a condo. We're under contract for her to buy a condo, and we're under contract on their house. And I was double ending it too, because you know how that goes. So anyway, so we have the home inspection. The seller wanted to be there. I'm just going to advise, do not have the seller there for the showings or for the inspections.
It makes it uncomfortable for everybody.
Uncomfortable.
Yes, everybody.
Every once in a while, there's extenuating circumstances where if you have like a huge pool or something that you need to know how to operate, right? There's certain instances. But this particular instance, no, he just wanted to control every aspect of everything. So the inspector starts testing the septic system. And so the seller keeps distracting the inspector. And so the inspector's going here, there, and then he's getting in his face. And the inspector went out to check the septic, and it was the water was it was rising, right? And it was like right about to where the pipe is. So he had to stop the inspection, because if not, you don't want it coming back in the house, right? So he stops the inspection and says, the septic's not going to pass. The seller runs up to the home inspector and starts screaming in his face. I've never been so uncomfortable in my whole entire life. I mean, to the point where it was like,
oh, he was mad his septic failed, huh?
Dude, so mad. Well, come to find out, him and his brother put the septic in. So that's why he was so mad. So
that's why it failed.
Well, and I didn't know, right? So needless to say, that was like a whole ordeal. The buyer still wanted the house. We were able to fix something with the septic. I think it was, like the D box that was going out to the leach field. Exactly. Like something was stuck there, and they were able to fix it. Not a big deal. But it was funny because afterwards, the guy came up to me and was like, by the way, I want you to get my wife out of that condo because we're getting back together. What do you think I did? No. So she ended up buying a condo.
Not listening to you.
Has a great life now. And
of course.
I'll never forget, right before closing, something else happened, as something always happens,
of course.
Right? And I remember it was during the winter because it was football season. And I remember I was watching a football game and my phone rang and it was like 8:30, and I was like, I got to answer it because I just wanted to be done with it, right? So I answered it and he starts screaming at me, and my boyfriend at the time was like, give me the phone. And I was like, I can handle it, right? I went out on the deck and he's screaming. I think we closed within the next week. I blocked him. Even if he had a $5 million house to sell today,
not worth it.
I would not do it. I mean, it was just the emotional toll that took. And that whole experience was just absolutely crazy.
Yep.
So the takeaway from that is make sure your sellers stay away at showings. and inspections.
Please.
1,000%.
Can we just add to don't bring your family to the home inspections when you're a buyer? Can we just like please say that to everybody out there?
Give me a high five for that one. That's awesome because you're so accurate.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how many times does Super Dad come in and Super Dad has never held a hammer before?
No,
and
but
Super
they got
Dad
their
knows
flashlight
everything.
And they're looking at everything.
And it's like, you know more about the heating system
Yes.
than Dad does.
Yep.
But Dad's like, but it's on oil. Yeah, Dad, because we have no gas
yeah.
in this municipality.
Yes.
Do you think you're going to poof just miraculously make it happen?
Right.
But the Super Dads are always the number one deal killer.
When you start seeing multiple cars roll up on a home inspection, you're just like, oh no,
okay.
oh no,
oh no,
oh no.
oh no, it's happening. And it's so funny because I either have clients that want their family input, but I also have clients that are like, nope, I'm doing this myself and I will let them know when it's all said and done.
Right. Well, you have a home inspector. They're the professional. They're going to give you a report on everything. Mm-hmm. Leave it up to that.
Exactly.
You guys can review the report later together over
exactly.
dinner.
Over
not
dinner.
during the actual inspection itself.
And then the other thing with the inspections that I noticed too is that in my opinion, when buyers are not present for the home inspection, I actually had it happen twice this year where the buyer wasn't there for the home inspection. The agent was, and like they did a little FaceTime and they got the whole inspection report and they both pulled out of the transaction.
Really?
Yeah. And I just found it very, very interesting because every other buyer that was present for a home inspection didn't. And I resold those houses, one for $30,000 more and one for $45,000 more.
So it worked out for your
with
sellers,
inspections that nothing ever happened. You know what I'm saying? So it's just.
Well, I think because when an inspector like finds something, it may look like it's a bigger deal on a report because you don't have the professional explaining it to you. So especially for a first-time home buyer, it may seem like it's something
100%.
scary. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you were there and the inspector can show it to you and explain it to you, it may not be that big of a deal to you. So that could be why
1,000%.
They would back out.
Yeah. So on the septic thing, I think I heard you saying earlier you had a septic horror story.
I do. I've had quite a few septics fail in my career. So
Did
that's
you?
fun. Yeah.
They know you're the septic Grim Reaper.
Yep. I'm like, every time there's a septic, I'm like, oh no, fingers crossed. But some of them were fine. They got a new septic. Great. This one, it was in North Kingstown. It was so closer to the water. And it was like an elderly person that lived there. And so it was just like one person. So they barely used the septic, I would assume, because it was just one. So we did the septic inspection and the entire backyard just turned to mush.
No.
It backed right up. So fast, too. So fast. It was honestly, they were probably only doing the flow test for about less than 20 minutes.
Oh,
and it
my
just
goodness.
Completely, so he obviously stopped it.
Yes.
And the inspector was like, listen, you need to get somebody out here ASAP because this can actually start backflowing into your house. And this can cause a lot of issues. And when I tell you, it stunk so bad. I was like, I need to leave.
When was the last time they pumped it?
She had no idea. So we didn't have any idea.
That was probably like 5, 10. And usually in North Kingstown, they're pretty good, which is funny.
Yeah.
And
no,
it was
this
a
one was
septic.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Complete backyard was literally mush.
What does the buyer do?
So the buyer obviously backed out because he was like not taking this house.
I don't blame him. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, but I mean, the sellers did say that they would put a new septic in, but he was just so turned off by everything that.
Understandable.
Yeah, he was like, I'm all set. So he backs out. So anyways, we start still looking at other properties and I unfortunately didn't have a buyer's agreement signed with him.
No. Mm-hmm. Well, now it's mandated.
Now it's mandatory.
So that's
great. This was 2 years ago.
Of course,
so then it wasn't mandatory. So I whatever. I didn't have one signed and he ended up buying a house with somebody else when I had no idea. I was still working with him. And then one day he just emails me. He's like, hey, Nicole, I'm all set. I actually just bought a house the other day. I closed on it like yesterday or whatever. So thanks for your time.
You must have been fuming.
Oh, yes.
Fuming.
Yes, I was. But
because not only did you show houses, you actually were under contract
Sure was.
on a house with him.
Yep.
So now, mind you, you had to do all of the paperwork.
Yep.
You had to make sure the deposits were exchanged. You had to take the time to go to do the home inspection, which is a few hours.
Yeah.
get his deposit back because you protected him, and I'm sure you made sure all those dates were right.
He got his deposit
and
back,
then he ended up going and buying a house with another
agent. Yes, who they double ended the deal too. That agent. Wish I could say names, but they double ended it. Yep. So it was just a terrible situation. And mind you, he was a vet. He was a very nice guy, but he was older, so he didn't do any e-signatures. So anytime we needed something signed, I would go to him and meet him somewhere.
So you really went above and beyond for this particular client.
For him just to go right behind my back, not even tell me that he was like.
So. It was a learning experience for you, though, wasn't it?
Oh, sure was. Buyer agreements,
and
always.
Then let me guess that you've never not had a buyer's agreement since then.
Nope, always had buyer's agreements. And protect myself.
1,000%. I mean, I've been selling real estate for 20 years, and I never used buyer agreements because I was like, oh, they're going to always stick with me, always going to stick with me. It's kind of funny that you say that because before the new mandate, I had a referral from my loan originator and super nice couple. You know, I showed them a few houses. We made offers on houses. I showed them this one house and I knew the agent and, you know, we had the conversation. I said, they're well qualified. You know, we kind of were going back and forth. I knew where they needed to be to buy the house. Yeah. Okay. I told them where they needed to be to buy the house. They said, no, we want to be $20,000 lower. I said, okay, well, you're not going to get the house.
Right.
And they're like, we're fine with that. Okay. So I still did the paperwork.
Yep.
Still get the offer over. The highest and best comes back and we get you didn't get the house. So I tell them, you didn't get the house. And they're like, what do you mean we didn't get the house? Did I stutter?
Yeah. I mean, sorry, you're under asking.
I was very, very expressive with where you needed to be. So then I showed them a couple of more houses. And I think like one of the houses they wanted to make an offer on was right next to a gas station. Fun fact, FHA, you can't be within, I think it's either 300, 600, or 900. I don't know why. I can't figure out which one it is. But you literally can't be that close to a gas station. And so I told them, you can't buy this house because you're doing an FHA loan. So you're not getting, and they were like, oh my gosh, you're so knowledgeable, so knowledgeable. So, you know, I hadn't heard from them in a week, 2 weeks. I thought it was weird. So I reached out to my loan originator and I said, oh, I haven't heard from X, Y, and Z. And he goes, Melanie, I don't know how to tell this to you.
Oh no.
They're under contract they're under contract on another house and they're not using you. And I was like, you know what? I said, everything happens for a reason. I said, this is a learning experience for me.
Right.
In 20 years, that's never happened to me, Nicole. And it happened to me this year. Isn't that funny?
That's what, yeah.
20 years. I've never had anybody, you know, because what you see is what you get with me. Yeah. I'm sure you know that.
I was going to say, well, you're the best, so why is anyone not going to want to use you? Once they start talking to you, it's like, done deal.
Right? And it's like, I brought them in here for a buyer consultation, you know, went through everything. They trusted me. They even asked me about some commercial real estate stuff that the wife wanted to get into. And then, so I was like, you know what? And I just put it back out into the universe and I went on my merry way. And I said, you know what? Buyer's agency agreements moving forward. And then everything happened. And so now we have to. Yeah. But it was funny because I heard back from the loan originator and he goes, Mel, you're never going to believe this. I go,
tell me the good news.
What? He goes, they had a home inspection and they pulled out of the agreement. But wait, they went in contract on another house, had another inspection and pulled out again. I said, oh my God,
thank God that you didn't.
I am so happy I did not waste my time.
I was going to say, it would be
between the driving, the cost of gas and the inspections and everything. And sometimes we can't be there, right? So we have other people that work with us that'll cover an inspection or a showing or what have you. So I was like, you know what? That was a blessing in disguise. And every once in a while, that karma comes back. So let me tell you, that guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, karma. I already know the karma on that one.
Okay, good. I love it. Yep, You'll have to tell me after.
Yeah, I will. I already know the karma.
So give us another example of a real estate horror story that you dealt with.
So this one was probably, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. So it was a lead that just came through our system that I was nurturing for probably a year.
Oh, wow.
So I was working with this.
You don't give up.
No, I don't.
Like you.
I'm persistent. So finally, because she had a house to sell and she wanted to buy, she wanted to downsize. So we stayed in contact. So finally she agreed to meet with me and we went through the whole process of listing her house. And she had like a cute little home in Providence. It was very like, it had a lot of character to it. It was cute. And she had like a couple of dogs and everything too. So I mean, it wasn't like super well kept, but it was okay. So we list her property. And I'm sorry, before I even got her property listed, I actually got her under contract for a condo.
Awesome.
That's what she
You did like a Hubbard.
Yeah, we did. Yep, exactly. So
I know it's not called that anymore, but I'll always call it that.
But it was nice that we were able to get her secure property before we listed her property because that was, how some sellers want to do that. And we always...
Which makes sense. They don't want to be homeless.
Exactly. So got her under contract for the condo, listed the house, and the day of the open house, her daughter calls me and was like, hi, unfortunately, you're going to have to cancel the open house. I can't get in touch with my mom and all the dogs. Mind you, they had like 4 dogs. They're like, all the dogs are home. I can't get them out.
Imagine the people go into that house with you not there and all the dogs.
And that's exactly what I said. I was like, so because she called me an hour before the open house is supposed to start.
And you're like, I can't.
I was like, I can't cancel it now. I was like, once people see it's an open house, they don't go look back to see if I took it off or it's still going on. So I'm like, you're gonna have people show up to that house, and I had a key. So I was like, listen, I'll put the dogs outside. I was like, that's a fenced-in backyard. Let me show it. I was like, obviously we're still gonna be selling it. Your mom's under contract. We have to get her under contract for her sale. Let me still show it. So she agreed to let me show it. I put the dogs in the backyard. I kept the cats.
You put the dogs in the backyard.
I put the dogs.
God bless you.
Yeah,
look at
I
you,
got all the
superstar.
I know. I got all the dogs. I rallied
Figuring
them all
it
up.
out.
I like put them outside. I felt bad, but I was like, whatever. She had cats too. The cats were able to stay inside because I didn't think they were going to run out. I don't know. And so after the open house, I received a crazy amount of offers, like appraisal gaps, waived inspections, over asking. Wow. It was a lot. Like we priced it perfectly to get that activity on it. So the next day I try to call my client, no answer. Next day I try to call my client, straight to voicemail. Next day, straight to voicemail. Next day, straight to voicemail. I'm like, this is interesting. So I called the daughter and I was like, hey, I'm just trying to get, like, what's going on with your mom? Is your mom okay? I'm just trying to get in touch with her. Like, we have multiple offers. We got to wrap this up. People are waiting. And she was like, yeah, unfortunately, like I can't even get in contact with her either. I know that she's in the hospital or something's wrong. I'm not really at liberty to say, but unfortunately, there's nothing I can do.
She was in the mental hospital. Go ahead.
She was. I was like, oh my God. I was like, so they took her phone. That's why it's going straight to voicemail. I was like, what am I going to do?
Oh my gosh.
So obviously I was like,
you got in your car and you went there.
Well,
Imagine.
Kidding. Can you imagine? Like, hey, sign these papers, please.
Yeah, no, right?
Like, oh my God. So so it was probably about 3 weeks of no communication with her. So I had to withdraw the listing off the market, withdrawn from publication because I was like, yep. And we obviously lost out on the purchase that she was under contract for because I couldn't secure the buyer for her property. Yeah. So we lost out on everything. And I was like, okay. And like I would call her every so often to see if like the phone call would go through. And it was probably like a month later, I call and it rings. And I was like, oh my God, this is the first time it rings. And she answers, she's like, hi, Nicole. I was like, hi. I was like, how are you? Are you doing okay? Yeah, I'm good. Are we still selling my house? And I'm like, yeah, if you still want to sell your house. I'm like, listen, whatever you're going through, I was like, that's personal. You don't have to tell me, but if you're ready to go back up on the market and promise me that you're going to stay with me through the process, like I'll come back and we'll go through it all again. She's like, yeah, no, I need to sell. She's like, I'm assuming I lost out on the condo. I was like, yeah, but we'll find you something else. So anyways, we list the property again. We get good offers on it still. And then I get her under contract for a condo within the same development, not the same condo, but in the same development.
Yeah.
So it worked out great for her. So the day of...
I'm surprised she could have four dogs in the condo complex.
So
you mean in the same condo complex that you were under contract before? My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
So anyways, the day of the closing, I kind of had an idea. Like she was kind of like iffy and flaky, and I was like, okay, like I need to go there with the movers and just make sure that
everything's going.
Yeah. Everything's going because that's it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. So we go there. She's sitting on her chair with her coffee in her robe at 9 a.m. and telling the movers, "Nah, don't take that. Keep that here. You can take that. Yeah. Oh no, I don't want that." I was like, you can't just leave things behind that you don't want to take. She's like, well, what am I going to do with that? I can't fit it into my condo. I was like, well, that maybe we should have got a dumpster. Maybe we should have done something, sold it for you. Like, you can't just leave these big items in, like, a bed, a treadmill, a desk, like multiple things.
Oh my gosh, you must have been just, your anxiety must have just been
Through the roof.
Through the roof.
Mind you,
Were you supposed to close that day?
Oh yeah, that day we were closing. So luckily, the buyer was like, listen, I'll take whatever she wants to keep behind. Like, I'm completely fine with it. So whatever she wants, just let it stay. And I was like, she got lucky, because I was like,
she
thank
got
God.
so lucky.
Yep.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. So how much stuff did she leave behind?
Oh, it was probably 2 roomful of things, a kitchen table, her whole refrigerator full of things. Oh yeah, So I moved some of her stuff because some of it wouldn't fit in the truck. So I packed my Jeep up. I took it to the condo. I ran back there because I've never seen a house so dirty, and I felt so bad for the buyers. So I went back there. I actually called my husband. I was like, you need to bring me cleaning supplies to this house.
Because it needs to be done.
Because it needs to be clean. I'm like, also, please bring me a coffee, because I need coffee.
I need to get through this. I need to get through this.
So I get there, I'm cleaning things, and I'm like trying to get it all like nice and neat for, at least look decent for the new buyers. She had this light fixture hanging, a very low light fixture. And while I'm mopping, I turn around. I'm holding my coffee too. So I'm like sweeping and holding my coffee. I'm multitasking because I'm like rushing around. I turn around, I whack my head on the light. The coffee falls all over me.
No, you poor thing.
Imagine it was in the middle of summer and there's no AC, so I'm sweating on top of it.
And now you smell like sweat and coffee.
Sweat and coffee. Disgusting.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. And I met the agent, came probably like 10 minutes after that. And I was like, listen, do not ask questions. Don't ask what I look like right now. I gotta go. I did as much as I possibly can.
But the agent was probably so grateful.
Oh, she was. She was so sweet. She was so
grateful
sweet
that you did anything.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel as though this is an instance where you went above and beyond to make to get the transaction to closing.
Yep.
I feel as though a lot of other agents wouldn't be able to think quick on their feet.
No, they wouldn't do it.
And this is why people hire you.
Yeah.
This is why people hire Nicole, because she's awesome at what she does.
So
and she's a problem solver.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the things in this business that people don't realize is that we fix stuff.
Yep.
That's what we do. People come to us with problems.
Oh, yeah.
You know, kind of like how I have a building that is encroaching on someone else's property that has been doing it for 40 years. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do with it, but it's going to all work itself out.
You'll figure it out.
You want to know why? It always works out.
It always.
I can't believe you got that woman to sell her house again, though.
Oh, yeah. No, I did.
Wow.
The funny part is that after I went home and changed, because I was going to the attorney's office to meet her there, she started ignoring my phone calls again while me and the attorney are sitting there while she was supposed to come and sign. And we're sitting there waiting. I'm calling her, ignoring my calls. I'm like, she is not going to show. I'm like, this is a terrible day. She rolls in 2 hours late. Just rolls in. She's like, oh, sorry. Sits down. And I'm like,
2 hours.
2
hours late to a closing to sign on both properties?
Yeah, 2 hours. We sat there for 2 hours.
And was the buyer like, what is going on? Or did he already sign?
He already signed.
Oh, yeah,
so like, and they were already in the property.
Yeah.
So it was fine. But I'm like, well, I need to make sure that. So she comes there and she's literally not even speaking. So now I have the attorney questioning me if like she's even competent to sign the deed and like all these documents. Because she's literally like, the attorney's explaining things to her and she was just like, and I'm like, wow, can we just sign it? Let's go, please. Like, I'm out.
So I hope you just send her a magnet of yourself every year.
Mind you, oh no, the funny part is that she's actually selling her condo.
No, she's not.
Right.
And she's not doing it through you?
No, I wouldn't even take it.
Good for you.
I'm so proud of you. That was just a mess in itself. I would, nope.
And it took so much out of you where you could have spent that energy into somebody that really appreciated it.
Exactly.
And I think that that's what people don't realize is we really are in a job where, you know, people just use and abuse and they're like, you know what? Yeah. And it's like, it's hard for people to recognize the good ones from the not so good ones.
Exactly. I'm like, some clients just don't think that like we're actually human beings and like have feelings and like
1,000%. And we're and
this is our job and we're working
hard at it every single day. And the problem, I think, with our industry, and this is a fun statistic that you probably heard too, but 60% of licensed real estate agents today have been in the industry for less than 5 years.
Really?
60%. That number blew my mind. But it makes sense because of COVID.
Yeah.
And I feel as though everybody during, that 2020, 2021, 2022 decided they didn't like their job. They're going to go get their real estate license. Right. And they're like, I'm going to show a house and make some money. Well, let me tell you, that is not how it works. You know that.
No.
I know that.
Right.
I mean, you're on your hands and knees scrubbing somebody else's house when you don't have to be.
You don't have, right. I could have just left it. Even the everything in the cupboards were full. Everything.
You must have just been keep going through stuff and like everything.
Everything
like,
was just
my
she
goodness,
did nothing.
Goodness,
she did absolutely nothing. And I was like, how can you be this way? How can people be this way?
Well, it's funny. So when you said that somebody showed up 2 hours late, it peaked in my brain. I had this builder once. Great, loved him. We got along. I was helping him on a transaction, and there was this younger kid. You're probably a millennial, but he was a millennial. But anyway.
I am a millennial.
So I'm just above a millennial, but I still have some millennial qualities.
Yeah.
So I think we were at the final walkthrough, and it was a raised ranch. So the lower level wasn't the flat ceilings, because obviously all the pipes are there, right?
Right.
So it was the fancy drop ceiling. You know, the white with the tray on it?
Yeah.
So they were like, whatever, 3x3 or 3x3, I think, or 2x2, whatever. And they were just square. They were really nice. They weren't like the cheap ones with all those little holes in it, that you see all over the place. So his mother was there too. I remember this, okay? That's going to come in handy. Mm-hmm. So we're going for the walkthrough. He that type C personality, which you and I are obviously high eyes.
Yes.
I mean,
obviously.
So we're walking through and he was just, I could just see him just picking everything out. Mm-hmm. But I just am like, you know what? I'm letting him do what he does. And then he goes downstairs and he starts yelling. And is like, I'm not buying this house with this ceiling. The ceiling was supposed to be a flat ceiling. The specs call for a flat ceiling. So now I'm like, I don't remember the specs calling for a flat ceiling. But somewhere along the lines, I think we had either said out loud or something that they would be flat.
Yeah.
But I think, we had meant, like they're going to be flat, but it's going to be a drop ceiling. Yeah. And I'm telling you, the ceiling height was, not as high as here, but it was pretty high for a raised ranch, right? And he was a smaller guy too. So we're like, what does it matter, right? Yeah. So anyway, so we go upstairs and I'm talking to him and I said, well, these are your options, as we can have a conversation at the closing table with the builder. I said, but he's not going to change this. This is what it is.
That's it, yeah.
And the real estate agent, she was really, really sweet. I don't believe she's a real estate agent any longer. And she moved out west. Let's just put it that way. Okay. Really nice girl, though. Really nice girl. So we're upstairs in the kitchen, and the mother's there. And the mother, you can see, is trying to calm him down. He starts banging his fists on the countertop. I'm not buying this house. That was supposed to be flat. Having a temper tantrum. Like a toddler, Nicole.
Like a toddler.
I was flabbergasted. I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know how to respond. Right?
What do you
do?
I'm
just like, and his mother goes, whatever his name was, go outside. The mother told her son to go outside. Now, the son was buying the house, and he had a really good job, too, at the time. And I remember the girlfriend was the sweetest, but she wasn't in the state yet because they were coming from out west. And so the mother, he goes outside all huffing and puffing, red face. And the mother turns to me and she goes, I'm really, really sorry about my son's behavior. And I was like, mm-hmm. And I go, well, I said, I'm going to head to the closing now. I don't know how he feels. I said, but that ceiling's not going to change. Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And she goes, honestly, I think the house looks great. It's beautiful. So we drive over to closing. Maybe it was 10, 15 minutes. And we get to the closing table. And the builder was not happy because he builds a really nice product.
Of course, yeah.
He builds a really nice product and it's really great. And I remember them yelling at each other across the table. I'd never seen anything like it, Nicole. I mean, I've seen people upset.
Give me the popcorn.
Yeah, for real. And I remember the real estate agent that was really, really, really nice. She had somebody that was covering for her and There's a whole nother story about that for another time. And I just remember sitting there and we were I didn't know what to do. I thought the builder was going to walk away. The buyer irritated and got under his skin so much. He grabbed his papers and he says, all right, I'm just going to leave it. I'll sell the house to someone else. And he's like, you can't do that. He's like, I can do whatever I want.
Right. Well, you didn't want it anyway, so what are you mad about?
So they had their little hissy fit, and within 10 minutes, the buyer was signing. And I'm pretty sure still lives in the house today. But
over ceilings.
Over a ceiling.
That's
and
wild.
When I tell you, it was a beautiful new construction.
Yeah.
And guess what? If I have a lower level in my basement, I want to make sure I can access those pipes.
Right.
What happens if you get a leak? So not only was it for, aesthetics, but it was also so you could access everything. They did it the right way.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, I knew that builder almost walked away
That's
from
crazy.
that. And it's funny, I didn't have that story prepared for today.
No, it just came to mind.
It just kind of came to mind.
I know.
So I'm gonna let you do one more story,
Okay.
and then we'll wrap it up here.
Sounds good.
What do you think is probably the story that affected you the most?
So this one I think affected me the most because it was a lot of my time for absolutely nothing, and I hate wasting time when I can be using that time for other things. So.
Like your family,
Yeah,
just
of course.
hobbies.
Exactly, yes.
Or working with somebody else.
Or working with someone else or whatever the case may be. So there was this guy, he was, I think it was an expired listing, or it was just somebody that I just came across that had high equity in the home. It was a cold call.
Yeah.
And he lives next to me. So I was very familiar with the area. He literally lives like almost
You're like,
walking
I know,
distance to-
I know your house.
It's like, I know your house. So I call him, we have multiple conversations, and he's a talker. Like, this guy will keep you on the phone for the longest time.
Ugh, those are the worst.
It's about nonsense too.
Yeah.
Like he would bring up politics. He would bring up literally anything that you
you're
don't
not
want to talk
supposed to
to.
talk
Yeah,
about.
exactly. And I'm just like, don't want to talk about this. Don't want to talk. Nope, not going to respond. So I went to his house one day because he was like, okay, let's sell my house. Like he's getting older. He was like, he lives in a raised ranch, can't do the stairs anymore. So I go there. I'm there for like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours talking to him, just building value, building that rapport. Because I was like, okay, this is the first appointment that he's finally meeting with me face to face. This is great. He went and signed the listing paperwork right then and there. He's like, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. Fine. I call him a couple of days later and he was like, yeah, no, I'm all set. I actually don't want to list my house. I'm going to stay here. Okay, whatever.
Thanks for wasting my time.
Thanks for wasting my time.
Again.
About a month later, he calls me. Hey, Nicole, I'm actually interested in selling my house again. I want to get into a small condo. My health is getting worse. I can't do these stairs anymore. Can you please come over? Sure. I go by. We actually signed paperwork. Went great. I was there for another probably 2.5, almost 3 hours this time. So we signed the paperwork. We're ready to go to the market.
You're like, yes.
I was like, great. I was about to just schedule pictures. The next day he texts me, actually, never mind. I don't want to sell my house anymore. Do not list my property. I will let you know when I'm ready. And
But he already had this paperwork signed.
He already had the paperwork signed. And I was like, okay. I was like, listen, like, that's completely fine. And we had a whole conversation about like why you don't want to sell right now and this and that. So then about another month goes by.
So I got a question for you. With that listing agreement, did you do a withdrawn right to relist, or how did you do the paperwork for that?
I didn't even have it on the market yet. I literally, it was the night before we signed the listing paperwork. It was going to, we were going on the market the next day.
Okay.
So before I even got to list it is when he told me, don't list my property. I don't want to sell it anymore.
Like a wackadoodle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So then about a month later, calls me again. Hey, Nicole, I want to sell my house. And I'm like, okay, maybe third time's the charm. I don't know.
Maybe. It's not.
It's not. I'll tell you
It's not.
So I go there another 3 hours of my time because he just, like I said, loves to talk. So we get the new listing paperwork signed for the new dates and everything. And I was like, listen, don't text me the next day and tell me that you don't want to list this property. I was like, we're going for it. I was like, this is what you want. I know this is what you want because you wouldn't be contacting me 3 times to come here and sign paperwork and get your house on the market. You obviously want to sell for specific reasons, so let's sell it. Owns the house free and clear. There's no mortgage on it either.
So he's going to get a ton of money.
Yeah, a ton of money. So the next day, he did it again. He
No.
texted me again. He said, actually, Nicole, forget it. Don't sell my house. Like, I can't, my health is too
He
bad.
just
I
wanted
need to
a friend.
sell. Yep. Well, here's the kicker. About a month later, I'm just scrolling through MLS to see what's on MLS. And what do I see? That property. That
you must
property.
Have lost it. You must have
I was
lost it.
livid because I was like, well, first off, I have a listing agreement. Not that I paid for any marketing or pictures or signs or anything like
That's
that.
a principle.
But it was still
three
like,
times you
three
had
times,
a listing agreement.
all my time. So I actually contacted the agent that it was listed with, and she was actually willing to give me a referral fee. But she listed it $100,000 more than what we agreed upon listing it at.
That's why.
So that's why she got the listing. And because I always knew he wanted more money and he wasn't satisfied with what I was saying that he could get. I'm not going to overpromise
But you're
and
good
underdeliver.
at your job and you take listings to sell. You don't take listings to list.
Exactly. Well, that's another story, but yes, exactly. So anyways, long story short, he's still living in that house. They
never sold it.
He never sold it. He withdrew it from the market because they obviously couldn't get that price that they were asking for. And she took it off the market, and now her listing's expired too.
So the moral of that story, I think, is that you actually got lucky.
Yes.
That you didn't waste your time, spend money on pictures,
right, exactly.
spend money on installing a sign, spend money on showings, if you could have even gotten any showings.
Probably not.
So at the end of the day, that was kind of like a win-win for you, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
After wasting all that
time, at least I wasted time and not money.
Yes, but still, you know, and I kind of feel as though the more you do in this industry, the wiser we become.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? I mean, there's certain things that I know, you know, people have come to me and they're wishy-washy. And one thing I didn't always do when I first got in the business, but I do now is I always trust my gut.
Yep.
My intuition will always lead me in the right direction.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, I didn't take a listing once because it was a call that came into the office.
Yeah.
And I was super excited about it. And it was this cool old house in North Kingstown. And it was weird though, because they had just bought it like 3 or 4 months previous. And I was like, that's weird, but whatever. I was super excited. And it was daylight out. I mean, it was probably like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And I show up and I'm all like real estate agent-y, you know, and I'm feeling good.
Yeah, of course.
And you know, and then this car pulls in and they get out and they just looked off. Like, you know, when people look off and the girl is like kind of all over the place. And I was like, just kind of felt as though maybe there had been some drug use prior to our appointment.
Yes.
Just saying.
Yeah,
And she had disclosed that she doesn't have a mortgage on the property. So now the wheels are turning. It's like, okay, so she obviously bought this somehow with cash, but now she's looking to cash in on that cash.
Of course.
And it was her and her boyfriend. Well, the boyfriend looked like he was straight out of Breaking Bad?
No,
I don't know.
I don't know what they were doing in their basement, but
yeah, exactly. So I'll never forget, I was going through and they're like, oh, yeah, come in the basement. And I remember it was kind of like one of those basements that doesn't have high ceilings. And I'm a taller person. So in there, I got the worst feeling I've ever gotten being in a house with somebody. And I just looked at him and I looked at her and I said, okay, I'm done here. And I beeline to the stairs, ran up the stairs, and I was like, thanks for your time. See you later. Never followed up with them. They ended up listing with another agent.
Really?
It was like on the market for months and months and months and months and months. They wanted too much money.
Of course.
And I remembered talking to that agent about that transaction. She's like, it was an absolute nightmare. And I was like, I'm like, you just never know what you're going to get.
You don't.
And people like that guy, I'm sure when you first spoke to him, he was so happy to have you over.
Oh, of course.
And to talk to you and telling you his life story because
all of his life stories,
yeah,
all of them.
But see, you were patient.
Yep.
And you were kind.
Of course, always.
And unfortunately, people do take advantage.
They take advantage of that, absolutely.
Of that.
Yep.
But then the good people make it worth it in the industry.
They do.
And I think that's the takeaway is that for all the horror stories we do have, it's those great people that you know are so thankful for you.
Always, yes.
And knew that like you had gotten them out of a situation that they never would have been able to get out of if they didn't.
If they didn't have?
If they didn't have you.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, I'll never forget there was this couple and they were getting divorced and he was the nicest guy, right?
Yeah.
And she was sleeping with a neighbor.
Oh no.
And I mean, just the nicest guy. And I remember I helped them through a short sale, and he was so grateful afterwards. And it was just one of those moments where I was like so happy that he could move on with his life.
Yes.
And just be away from all of that.
Yeah.
But it was just one of the craziest situations.
Yeah, I
Now,
know.
I'm going to tell one more story about being scared.
Okay.
So I know you work with a few investors.
Yes.
And I have shown a lot of foreclosures out there throughout the years, a lot. And one of my investors, he had bought a house on auction, and it was on Ives Street in Providence. And, you know, like now it's like a great area. You know, it wasn't always back in the 80s. Let's just put it that way. But I remember, so he had bought a few through auction.com before, and we always had to kind of, I don't want to say break in, but break into the houses and get the water meter reading, because he had an instance where he had a $10,000 water bill. Ooh. Whole nother story for another time. Yeah, on
someone
one.
Just keep the water running?
No, the water like broke and it filled up the whole entire crawl space.
Oh no.
And then it was an absolute nightmare. But anyway, so he's like, "Hey Mel, meet me over at Ives, and we'll make sure the heating systems are there," because he also had heating systems stolen from a house. A whole other story for another time. Oh my God. And so in this one, we're like, we just want to make sure that we get the water meter reading. And there were some people that were staying there that weren't there, and he's like, "I'm pretty sure they're out." I'm like, "Cool, I'll meet you over there." We go in. The first unit, nothing's left in there except for like some garbage. The second unit, nothing's left there except for some garbage. And then we go up to the top floor unit, and I'll never forget, because it was like August and I was in a sundress and I was all tan and
all nice and cute.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I remember we walk up to that third floor, and he stops and he looks back and he goes like this, and I was like, so I'm nervous, right? And he's not a police officer, but he knocks and he goes, Providence Police, in case there was somebody in there. Opens the door, 3 drug addicts come out. I've never been so scared in my life.
Oh my God.
Definitely thought, this is how I'm gonna go out. At least I'm in my cute sundress.
At least I look good while doing it.
I mean, I was never so scared. I mean, I knew the investor that I was with couldn't handle his own, but still, I mean, it was so scary. He was so good. He calmed them right down. And they were like, by the end of it, they were like, "Oh yeah, we like this house." And he's like, "All right." He's like, "I'm closing on it." And so when I close on it, we'll have a conversation. And he actually ended up giving them, I think, a few dollars to get out. So that he didn't have to get the attorneys involved. Yeah. But man, that's terrifying. So scary.
Oh my goodness.
So the takeaway from here is A, make sure you always do showings with some daylight. Yeah. B, make sure you always have the client walk down the stairs first. Yes, please. At all times.
Learn from my mistakes.
Oh, exactly. All the time. And just know that you are going to have many, many, many horror stories, which I'm sure we could each, do a dozen more at this time. We can keep on going. So maybe you'll come back in the future.
Absolutely.
To do
I'd love to.
a round 2. I just want to say thank you again for being on Coffee Talk with Mel. Yeah. And thank you for coming and visiting me at my coffee shop multiple times.
Great coffee, great food.
And Nicole and I both work with Remax Result, and Nicole Connell is an expert local realtor in our community. And I, again, am Melanie Rose Quirk with Remax Results. And this episode today is sponsored by The Coffee Grinder in Warwick, Rhode Island. Thanks for listening, and see you at the next episode.